thank you so much for being here. Please keep in mind this is a mini class. It's unlike most classes that you've taken. Its only purpose is to give you my experiential understandings of the foundation for healing with light. And it is also, being a mini class, it's not one of my personal online courses, being a mini class for several minutes. I can only give you a teaser to what my 5-day course is like. You know, to start here, first of all, I want to really express that I've heard many stories from thousands of healers over the many, many years that they've been drained after a wondrous act, or they repeat mantras, which is okay, you know, to say someone else's words, and if it helps you to get to a place to help someone else. Or people need to wash their hands afterwards from the psychic stuff that they took on from other people, or they need bells or miscellaneous sundries to help them perform in working with the healing. This is spiritual healing. And well, that on the side, sometimes people even need to take time to sleep or in order to regenerate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and the list goes on. But this is spiritual healing. This is by God. And I've had this ability to work with it for, I guess, almost 47 years now. And so I've had a lot of experience in trying it out and seeing if God's going to come through for me, or the Creator, or the Nameless One, or the Universal Mind, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't care. And, but my place is to help other people also realize that they have this unique ability within them. And everyone here does, or else you wouldn't have had a calling to even watch this or be inquisitive about it. And with healing, any healing that we participate in while using the light, we won't feel any depletion. No depletion of life whatsoever. Only because now we're not making a movie of the dramas and traumas. We're not doing it. We're allowing a greater source to do it, and we're learning to trust that source. And we're only going to get energy gain and more livingness within that godliness, as I refer to it, as an exhilaration, often as euphoric, as we allow it to express through us. That is what we're really feeling. Oftentimes the body's, you know, not ready for it, and so it has to acclimate because we've been doing another way or experiencing something else from what we were taught. This will get us into the mystical experience in that divinity, that godliness, which is expressing its love on earth as it is in heaven. There's a union that we're learning to join, and without letting the dramas and the traumas and dilemmas getting into the way. Pertaining to healing and light, as we step out on these things, because they've been in our soul's experience of experiencing or are desiring to experience these things. It's literally in our soul's experience already for most people. But there's very few that actually function with it. A lot of healers, one on every street corner, but they're learning to eventually come to this, I believe with all my heart. And there's no invalid modality. There's something for everyone. This way, this spiritual healing is relying on a source that is light, that is intelligence, that is conscious within itself, more than we can even fathom in any way. And we can find ourselves working with others that are, for lack of better terms, we're working with others that are common people. And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. I'm talking about the ones that are involved in, say, the world of work, or material things. And there's just little, if any, perception of spirituality within them. They live their rational mind and understandings and intelligence. That's what they live. And that's what I refer to as common people. But we're here to aid those other people, to help them to feel better, to help them to know otherwise. Even if we don't say anything, something is still being transmitted and transmuted within them. For us, all we have to do to develop ourselves from within ourselves in healing, we must learn to very simply, I say this sarcastically, very simply get out of the way. And it sounds simple, but it's not. But even though it's not, it's the most simple thing in the world to do. To understand that this is real, we can then use this information in application and boldness once we learn to get out of the way. And as we use and apply this information, we'll be made more aware and more conscious within ourselves. An opening will be made literally within you and filled with that consciousness ignited within you. And your calling will be fulfilled. And the light will be bright for you as you learn to practice with it. It's an emanation from that divinity within. That's what the light is. In us, it's an emanation of that divinity within. To understand that this is real, and you can, use this information in application with healing as you freely choose during this entire thing and afterwards, please. And as you use and apply this information, you can be made more aware and more conscious, and an opening in that consciousness happens. In a sense, this is almost like an initiation. It's being made aware of something, but it's just the beginning. Any initiation that anyone ever goes through in life or death, in what we call death, transition, it's really just the beginning. That's all it is. It's just the beginning. So an initiation is not saying, okay, you've been initiated, therefore you are. Not true. It's just the beginning. Your calling, desires to be fulfilled, and the light becomes bright for you as you learn to practice with it. It's an emanation from the godliness within. Every moment of your life, this light already dwells within you. What we have to do is learn to be more conscious of it and allow it to come forth from us. We don't have to change our lives. We don't have to change the city we live in, our spouses or friends or loved ones or anything else. We don't have to change any of that. We can still even kid around and be ourselves. Every moment of your life, this light already dwells within you. The flow of the love of God experiences interference only by our dramas and traumas that we've been taught. It's the friction, with the divine flow of that life force, that spirit that dwells within us. Our dramas and traumas, which are responsible for what we call sin, disease, karma, retribution, etc. It is what we've been taught and what makes humanity what it is today. We're the ones that sabotage and limit ourselves. It's selective on our choice because we don't know otherwise. Even our guilts or our shames or feelings of inadequacy, it doesn't matter. It's what we've been taught. When the free flow of divine energy is reestablished, then the shadows of darkness will dissipate. It's no different than going into a room and flicking on a switch. Where did the shadows and darkness go? It's gone. Less than a moment, less than a twinkling of an eye. And speaking of the light is literally a manifestation of divinity within each of us. The more we're conscious of light, the more you dwell in the light. The more you think of being in it, the more you meditate on the light, the more you live in the light, and the more you can utilize and function healing with the light. As we carry the light as our purpose, we have more to give, and the more it gives to us of itself, because we're making room for it. You're filling a void. The light uses us on this earth because it's his life and source. Light has a consciousness that carries life. Light is manifestation of the divinity in you that's already there, waiting to be made more aware of. The more we are conscious of the light, we dwell in it, we think of being in it, we live in it, the more it gives us and the more we understand its intent. The more we let it manifest within us and us within it, the more we let it, the more we allow it, the more we give just as freely as we receive it. And the more it perpetuates and expands within us. Though there will be times that we don't feel or think that we have it, and there'll be times that we think that we're going through hell. But those are times that we've been on an upswing in life. And so all of a sudden in that upswing, here we are coming down crashing, and we get depressed, or we get damned or in ourselves, or we think that we're inadequate or fearful we get, or whatever. And we feel crummy. All these destructive qualities happen to us once we get to that pinnacle of that high. But those times are actually of coming down, of crashing. They're handed to us on a golden platter so that we can integrate everything that's happened prior. It's not the time to be depressed or down. We think it is because we've been taught that. But if we step back observantly and objectively, then we see that these effects from crashing lessen. And instead of going like this and crashing, as we objectively observe, we find that we're more on the even keel in life. So it's just a different perspective than what we were taught through reading, through hearing other people, through watching a lot of destructive, fearful TV or movies or whatever. Being around other people, they perpetuate it. We see it in others all of our lives. Since birth, it's impregnated into us. So there's times that we don't, feel or think that we have it, but it's there, it's integrating for a growth, for a wisdom, so that we can climb again. In seeing the light, there's a field that surrounds all living things. Even a chair was made by a person, and we have the ability to focus on that chair and see light around it. We'll see the life that that person operating that machine that made that chair or any other object will see the light of that person. And that's called, in so-called spiritual world, that's called psychometry, where we can pick up an object that someone has made and we can tell about the life of the person that might have been operating that chair or creating it or operating the machinery or any other object or handmade tool or whatever. There's even people that some museums around the world use. They'll find an object and they won't know what it is, so they have these certain people who can perceive those things in what we refer to as psychometry. You can pick up an item and say, oh my God, this is a part of something else that we use for this. And the curators know a piece of that, but these other people are giving more information and validation. So everything has life of the creator. We have that within us. We have that source within us that emanates the life forth from us. Some call it an energy field, some call it an aura, call it what you will. I refer to it as morphic fields of information, as quantum science refers to it, pertaining to information and intelligent mind. We mistakenly believe that we're limited to our physical bodies, that our skin is where we begin and end. But in reality, we're much more than that. We are expressions of that energy that emanates forth from us, which is the source. We have this within us. And you can develop the skills of seeing the light if you desire. And not many can. A lot of people say they can. Some people can. More people every day are being able to. It just hits them. Or they don't know what they're seeing and they'll readjust their eyes. After all, it's only an expression of ourself. Because it's an emanation from a source, our source. Those are radiations that carry the living information. In the emanations, they carry life. We can participate in that life because we're in it, we're of it, in union. There's no separation. We don't know that we are a part of it, but it's always been a part of us and it always will be, and that's what carries the life force within us, the reminder of it. This is the composite of the light that you see. But the light that is seen is the light that emanates from our body within, not our physical body. And this is our creation that is made in unity, or what I refer to as the communion we have in that godliness, that divinity. If you're more interested in this, of course, you can meditate on this to learn more about it. I'm not going to go into this as a class now. How this light will appear to each person will be dependent upon what anyone needs in their experiences of life. It's unique to each person. Everyone is different. What one person tells you in guidance and direction on what you should do, that's their experience of how they discovered or found out or saw. Everyone is unique. Everyone is different. We all have a different soul experience that brings us into this lifetime of things we're apt to work with. That's what the soul does. It carries the information of what we're here to work with at any given moment. And that's always changing according to our free will and how we want to utilize and experience our lives and what we want to perceive and what we want to live. We have free will. Pertaining to the light, and I'll share this with you. I'm a priest, a Gnostic priest, and in my order, I went through, and a couple people here have heard that about this already. I went through an initiation when I was just coming out of novice into first vows, and it was called the illumination. And this was unique to me personally because it's my place. But I went through the initiation, and I had to live in the chapel after the initiation for 3 days, and keep on meditating on what I had experienced. And so 3 days were over, and the teacher said, okay, get out, get back to work. And so I had to go to work the next, that third day or the fourth day. And as I went to work, I got on a bus, and then I got off, and I started walking to this little bookstore. I was the only one working at the bookstore. And so I got off the bus, and I noticed some people were staring at me. And I didn't know why, and I just put my head down and kept on walking. Then the second day came around. I got on the bus, went to work. As I got off, more and more people started stopping and staring at me. This is early in the morning, so there's business people, there's street people, there's all kinds of people. They were just stopping, and their eyes were wide and their mouths were jawed. And they were just staring at me. And I felt really guilty. And I didn't have any understanding. And I kept saying, oh God, what is this? What is this? What have I done? What have I done? Or what do I look like? And so the third day came around, and throngs of people were, not throngs, but lots of people were stopping in their tracks and staring at me. And people from storefronts that were looking out the windows were staring at me. People that were stopping on the street staring at me as I walked the half a block to work. And then the fourth day, or excuse me, yeah, it was the fourth day. No, the third day. That day, later that day, I was so curious about this. I asked inside, show me, show me, show me, please. And I saw literally porcupine quills of light emanating forth from me. And I could see why regular people, common people, were not capable prior to that of seeing this. But now they were exposed to something because something was fresh from within me. And so the fourth day, I said, wow, this is so cool. I can't wait to go to work and have all these people look at me, and maybe someone will ask me what's happening. And so the fourth day I went to work, nothing happened. No one looked at me. No one gave me any credence, nothing. And I went home that day, and I told my teacher about it. And he says, are you disappointed, Mark? I said, yeah. And he says, well, don't you think that it integrates within you? And I was so bummed out that I wasn't going to get all this attention anymore, that I wasn't going to be the cat's meow anymore. And so I just knew, but I had to learn that it was integrated within me. Everyone has it. Everyone. There's no one that doesn't. And it's dependent upon how we utilize it and how we acknowledge that divinity within ourselves to come forth to express for us. That's what it's all about. We all have it. And I've realized in my life since then, over the many, many years, that everyone is unique in their experience, and there's no comparisons. And it's what I needed, but everyone has their own needs that are unique to you. My places to teach this stuff, but we can develop it, I've learned, through meditation about it and wondering about it, how it fits in us and how we fit in it, because it's really one union, a mind that we're in communion with. There's never been a separation, ever. But now, these days, the light's becoming more conscious in more people. Children are amazing. Many emotional and then body stresses people have are often from the influx of this light and the changes that people are going through in their adaptation to it. It's natural to people. And we're becoming more conscious of it, though we don't know what to term it necessarily. Life is accelerating and moving so quickly, just for people to adapt and to catch up with it. This is only one explanation of it, though. As we carry the light more consciously, the more we're able to help others remember a greater wholeness within them. As we can touch someone that's in distress physically or emotionally, and realizing it is not us that's really touching them, but the living consciousness of light that's touching them. That's the most important thing. Then we can find and be aware of that unity more so within us. By allowing our minds to step out of the way and be conscious that this light that's embedded within us, that gives us our life and our so-called spiritual consciousness, how real it is, and allowing it to touch, not us. And then the communion that is happening, we find to be more true in our life. God, the creator, whatever you want to call it, the nameless one, the divinity within, universal mind, it doesn't care what you call it. That is the light. And this is our purpose in our life. There's an exercise I want to share with you. And this is for, this will help you to perceive the light more acutely, more freely in your life, in seeing it in others and animate, inanimate objects, whatever. It'll help you to perceive of it. And you'll be able to get all this on the replay as well when it does. So please practice this if you choose, if you want to. And like in all my discourses and all my mini classes, all my regular courses, even working with people in person, I don't tell anyone what to do. I'll share with you how to do it. And I leave it up to the person if they want to take it and run with it. And if not, there's no curse on you or anything else. So please don't take it that way. Find the time and place where you can sit quietly without talking to anyone, just by yourself, just to observe people. A good place to do this would be in a park bench, in a city park if you want, or where you can observe others just relaxing or playing or talking or doing whatever they're doing. Or you can do it in, say, sitting in a cafe, or in a bus you can do this, or an airplane, wherever. And matter of fact, before I go on with the exercise, many, many years ago, not many, but many years ago, I was going to be boarding a flight. I don't remember to where, but I always look when I'm in the sitting area before boarding. I always look to see light around people, and I'll even be able to perceive if there should be a major turbulence. I'll see a break in that field, a light. It'll be a break and then another. Or if there's going to be 2 or 3 turbulences, I'll see 2 or 3 breaks around the fields. And this time I didn't see any. There's a lot of people there. And I just looking and looking and looking. I said, this is odd. I don't see light at all around anyone. And then it was boarding time, so everyone got on. And I said, I want to look, I want to see on the plane if there's light or turbulence or what. And I didn't see any light. And I couldn't understand. And I started sweating inside myself and in my body. And I was getting scared and nervous. And right before, it took about maybe 20, 25 minutes, then they closed the doors and they said, they didn't say anything, they were just closing the doors. And that was all they said. And I'm so scared, I wanted to jump up. And I kept talking myself out of it. I wanted to jump up and say, I want out, I want out. And so, right before I did, they came on to the microphone and said, I'm sorry, the plane's going to be a little late. The pilot's not here yet. The major pilot, or the one in charge, the captain. And then all of a sudden, the light popped around everyone. And so, but you'll always be able to see turbulence or anything else. I always trust it, always, for anything. Whenever you decide, you know, go to that park or cafe or whatever and focus on people. Just focus on them. And make sure, though, this is fun, make sure that you can look at others without being intrusive on their personal space. Some people take offense at being watched or stared at. I've gotten strange looks at times from others, thinking that I was staring at them for some unknown reason. So, you know, make sure that someone's not in your view. Excuse me, someone's in your view, and then you can look at them. And if they do, you know, pick up on your energies and look to, you know, knowing that someone's coming into what I call the morphic fields, and it's intruding on them and disrupting them, they'll look up and they'll look for what it is that's disturbing it, and they'll see you. So then look down if you can, and then start again with someone else. And you'll see light around them. Let me show you the light. This is neat. And some of y'all will be able to see it, some won't, most will, I think. And some not right away. And what I would like you to do is to focus on my forehead as a focal point. Just focus on my forehead as a focal point. And some of y'all may see something around my head, but don't look at it. Keep looking at my head. And you'll see that everyone has this, but you'll see that there's a fluidness to it. There's a movement to it. And I can even do this. I've done this in workshops and you know, where the lights are on or the lights are off, and they'll still be able to see it because I know that this is real within me. So it's going to be a little bit different because I've practiced with it more. I've accepted it more. I trust that divinity within me more. You'll see it coming up here. You'll see it around. This might be thin. It might be going in different directions. And I know this is real. One time I worked at Motorola for several years. I became friends with some engineers, and I showed them this, and they measured it, and they saw that it was different here and around my body compared to out here in the measurements, and they didn't understand that. So we all have this to varying degrees. It's a part of our life. It's our life. It's that divinity within that's expressing itself forth from us. And it's brighter than the light in the room. If I move my head, and remind yourself this is a skill, nothing more, and you can develop it in time and practice and patience. Then attend to your peripheral vision. When you look at the light, then it'll go, because we're living in this solid world that's blending with the so-called spiritual. But when you're focusing on the light around yourself and others, which also could develop into many other tools you can use and learn about, you can develop it with time and practice and patience. Then attend to the peripheral fields again as you lose your focus, and it might take a moment or two, but then it'll pop again and you'll see it more clearly. Then you'll be able to see it more often. This is almost like an initiation for some of y'all to go through, to be able to have your sight opened, and your vision will open a little bit more as long as you're relaxed and concentrate on one specific area, say the head. Now you'll be seeing with your peripheral vision, because that's how we get to witness so-called spirituality, with the periphery. And you'll notice a little edge of light, or the plasticness of it moving in a form that's surrounding the person. You might have seen around me just now. It'll be brighter than the light outside of that field. Always. It's not a trick of the eye. It's not memory. It's living. But when you see the light, don't look at it. Keep that in mind. And if you do, look back with your peripheral vision. Focus on one area. Some of my students have told me that when they first started seeing the light, that it would flicker on and off continually. So be aware that in the beginning you may see it for a split second before it returned to your regular physical sight. This exercise is also helping your sight to open a little bit more, keep in mind. And please, has anyone seen this, what I'm showing? Please, can anyone see it? Please feel free. You can express, you can turn the mics on, please.
Yeah, I can, Mark, I can see, I saw this when you were in Roanoke and I was at the church we were at. It's like a milky white that kind of moves and shapes. For me, what I'm seeing is
yes,
sort of above your head, and it kind of like it's amorphous, and it'll
yes,
disappear. And then I'll take my eyes back and look at your nose or your eyes, and it comes back.
Yes, yes, yes. It's translucent. It's clear, cleaner than the light in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Please, anyone else? Were they able to see it? What does it look like for y'all? Please, please feel free.
Jamie has some comments too, if you want to take a look.
For strep 3 times and
I'm sorry? Say that again. Turn on your mic.
Okay, for me or for Patty? Sorry if I interrupted you.
That's okay.
I was just going to say Jamie has some comments in the chat window if you want to take a peek while Patty's going ahead.
All right, Jamie, through your teachings, do you find that people who have experienced near death or another extreme trauma are more likely to have these experiences. I think, yes, and I talk about that in the classes as well, but as in the introduction and in the series 2, the introduction to series 1. But through your teachings, do you find that people who have experiences of near death? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Though it almost like initiates through the trauma and the drama and the shock, it initiates more of an expediency for those things to happen. And what we do, though, is we get psychologically bent out of shape most often, and not realizing or being shown that we don't have to go through the dilemma and trauma anymore, but it's been given to us as an experience if we want. But that's selective thinking. We choose, because of past experience and the influences of the world, we choose the shock and trauma. So that's why I call it selective thinking. And also, Jamie asked, is this aura visualization? Yeah, you can call it aura. It's I call it the emanations of that union that we have that's already within us. It's funny, I can't tell when people are using it to see mine. 99.99% of all people cannot see yours, but they can pick up the intuitive information from you, not consciously, but subconsciously, and people react to that. And again, I teach a lot of this stuff in classes. And she wrote, but I wasn't sure that if it's because I bring it to me based on my own near-death age. Yes, you're more conscious of it, but not necessarily taught how to utilize it. Once we utilize it, then we're allowing it to control us even more. So much for the free will, but we're freely doing it, if that makes sense, hon. Good questions, good questions. So, please, anyone else able to perceive of that and to see that? Please feel free.
I would have said for sure that there was a lamp behind you. So could you just turn around? Is there really like no lamp behind you? Really? Yeah. Okay. Just that. Thank you. I wanted the validation. It was like so, you know, I'm looking, and then all of a sudden it was like there was a light behind you.
Yes.
And as if the sun was coming through the window uniquely. It shifted. Because now I see a shadow behind you. You're not glowing in the same way.
Then watch this. There. See it?
It's like, for me, that feels very different, like a lot warmer. Like everything was much warmer. I don't know how else to word that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Perfect words. Perfect words. Remember, though, sight and belief. Sight and belief. It's not as we see, so we believe, but as we believe, so we see. Please try to remember that in your lives. We must continually, constantly be learning how to get out of the way. And you just had an example of how to do that. By not knowing, not figuring, not thinking, not analyzing, not critiquing. Otherwise, we think that we're doing it. Then eventually we give up and say, I can't do this, or I'm not good at it. And the doubt rolls off your tongue. It's At the cessation of any doubt is when healing will be. Work with creativity, which washes away disease. Light initiates regeneration. Work with creativity. Light initiates regeneration. Allow the light to remove the cause so that it can work with disease and destructive thoughts. Not you allow the light. You're bringing the light to the person that, I don't want to say has shadow or darkness or anything like that, but doesn't know. You're bringing the light to that person to help them to remember the light within them. For those that live in the realistic world of thinking and analyzing and critiquing, they don't know what you're doing. They don't. They can't. But remember, we can help others as we help ourselves. They are within us. Their experience is within us as we are within them. Or otherwise, we wouldn't be able to identify with them. So somehow, either in the past or the current or the potential future, we also replicate within us, not replicate, but we have within us their situation in some form within us to relate to, or else we couldn't identify with it. It's not possible otherwise to understand what anyone is saying without that identification. Sometimes I even play with this stuff. God hasn't struck me down yet with lightning or anything, but not yet. Over the many, many, many years, say if I'm at a real junky place, I want to get a coffee at Denny's or something, I'll see the waitress or waiter coming up to me, wanting to take my order. And sometimes I'll see, like I have seen, a red glow in this area here, and as they're coming up, and I'll see the that red glow maybe out to here, which is maybe an inch or so, and they come up to me and I look at them and I say, I'll tell you what, if I can get rid of your toothache, will you get me a free cup of coffee? And they look at me and they say, how did you know? You don't even know me. And I said, well, if I can get rid of it, will you get me a free cup of coffee? And they say, I guess. I said, look, you've had it for 3 days now. And they're really blown away by this time because it's out to here. And so I put my hand up, put it on the cheek, and I do my prayers within myself, and a couple seconds later, I said, you owe me a cup of coffee? He says, you got it. It's no longer aching or anything. And so, you know, but we're learning how to use it. That divinity within it, the consciousness, it doesn't care how we do it. It just wants us to come to it because we're always growing. We're always evolving, always learning about it as we practice. So, in any case, just remember, the healer, which is y'all, you have it within you, has a stronger and more powerful use of this energetic of the divinity that comes out of you. More availability than the so-called, through lack of better terms, the common person that is mostly conscious of the linear world. And I don't say that in degradation, or I don't say it in a demeaning way of the common person. And as you place your hands gently on that person's injury, observe the light from within you. changing that injury. Maybe at times it'll be so effective as you practice it. Immediately there'll be change. Say if there was a injury in the muscle, or injury of a cut or something, maybe it'll stop bleeding. Who knows? But that light consciousness knows, and how to help it and that person to feel better more than we do. So that's why I allow it to come forth. Who knows that maybe that injury, the tissue, damaged tissue, will get stronger. Please, last minute, any questions, please? Please, anyone. One at a time, please.
I have one.
Anything I try to answer. Please. Hi, how are you?
Hi, fine, thank you.
I
Hi.
haven't seen you in 20,000 years.
I know. Does it work on, I know the answer is probably yes, but I still want to hear about it. Does it work on cancer?
I've seen both ways. I've seen three ways. One, I've seen it where people, it'll go right away, or it will be in graduated time that it disappears, or that it will all of a sudden someone will change their diet or do an exercise that I say, and then it dissipates. Or I've seen it where it's the cancer is arrested. I don't care what stage it's at, even if they're dying. I've seen it where it's been arrested, where it will no longer progress and they get to live their life fully with joy and vigor. And I've also seen it where it's helped people to pass, which is what is needed for that soul. I can't determine if a person is going to live or die, or what's going to happen with the situation of drama or trauma or anything else. I say, okay, boss, take over. What are you going to do about this? So to answer that, yes, it will affect a person's life. Good question.
I got a
Thank you.
question. How do you activate the healing?
I don't have to, because I've learned that it's within me, and it's an automatic thing. Even when I'm sleeping, it's functioning somewhere with someone or a situation in teaching or whatever, because I've learned to accept it. And that's what I teach in the classes.
Well, how can we activate it then?
It's a long understanding, and I can't express it all in this very short period of time. But it's recognizing and wondering about the godliness within you, the divinity within you. Then you'll find out as you experience it answering you. And it only will answer you if you have a desire for it to. That's what we're learning.
Mhm.
I hope that, and please re-listen to this and try to make sense of what I'm saying in my ramblings. Please do. Please, any other questions? Couple more.
I have another.
Please.
Okay, so again with cancer, or anything that you would be on at a distance, do you need, not do we need, but I'm asking you specifically, do you need permission to work on people? Or,
Nope.
Okay.
Not at all. Not
And
at
then,
all. It's
course,
not
they would
wrong
need
to
be
do
in the
good.
program. What?
Not wrong to do good.
Yeah.
We always think of people, that's a prayer. Every word, every thought, every action is our living prayer anyways.
Okay. And then you don't, and of course you don't need to be in the same room, of course, right?
Of course.
Just checking. Thank you.
All around the world, anyone. But it happens at the twinkling of an eye, even as we're thinking of it,
Mhm.
to work with a person. It's already started to happen.
Yeah.
Good questions.
Thank you.
Good questions. Enjoy, everyone. Blessings to you. And please see us in our next event.
How about
Thank
the-
you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you,
all so
everyone.
much.
Peace be with you.